in his new video that he dropped yesterday, he's rapping in front of cars wrapped with like Narcan and Suboxone. But everybody's fine with it because he's never changed. He's very honest about it.
If you heard something or if you could not verify what you said, at your age, with your status, what you know about this industry and interviewing and all of this stuff, no comment.
We've needed this. We've needed a pop star. We needed somebody that can sing and dance and this and that. And it's like, she's there. Chlöe Bailey's there.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to a fresh new episode of Billboard Unfiltered. All right, first things first, we got a new face in the house. Want to give a shout out to our man Tetris, host of Billboard News. So if you watch any Billboard program, you probably seen him more than any of us. So welcome to the resident celebrity in from LA.
You know,
how you feeling?
I feel great. I could never be a deputy in the way that Carl is. You know, I have a big chair to fill, but I'll do the best I can.
I guess our first topic is going to be about somebody who is obviously Drake adjacent. Has been a little quiet about the particular beef because he's been too busy working on his own stuff. That, of course, is Future. Mixtape Pluto came out last Friday, so that's the big release of the week. Future's third album of 2024. So he's been on a pretty crazy run for the year. Obviously, the first two were the Metro collab albums, We Don't Trust You, We Still Don't Trust You. So as Mixtape Pluto is the big news of the week, first of all, just general reactions. Are we at a point where it's a little too much Future for the year? Are we liking, this sound because it's a little different than some of the Metro stuff? What's the general feel about it?
Never too much Future for me, to be honest. I'm loving it. Told My is my favorite song, I told my bitch, if I gotta be faithful, I might fall off. That's a bar.
It's gospel.
That's a bar. Like that's about
not
to be.
For me.
I'm gonna say y'all acting like that's your creed. Like tattoo it.
Not for me.
I'm gonna speak for myself. Absolutely. Like that's gonna be something that I live by for the next 8 months or so until the next tape drops maybe. But I had a great time with the Future record. I just feel like he never lets me down in terms of just giving me a collection of solid tracks that I like to bump for the next couple months. It's never like I'm asking for more Future music, but when it comes, I don't ever really turn it down.
But I think that's the thing about the hip-hop community in general. I feel like nobody ever is like, this is too much. I feel like people will always take new tracks.
It's interesting because I know, obviously, there's somebody who people feel like should take a hiatus, and we got a little too much, even without an album this year from Drake himself. Like, I know some, people, obviously, they're always going to be in conversation with each other, having been collaborators now. Not enemies, but frosty, it seems like, to some degree. And people are saying this is almost the opposite of, Drake has been putting out loosey singles, kind of, the 100 gigs obviously was, just a massive data dump. He's been on some guest appearances here and there. I mean, is the difference that it feels like with Drake, by his standards, people would say none of it's really hit.
The difference is 100% qualitative. I think that even before the beef, people were asking for Drake to take a break. Drake himself said he was going to take a break. He said he was he was tired and he was washed out. He needed to take a break for his health. People said that he was making the same album over and over again, which I think we can all attest to. Listening to Certified Lover Boy and For All the Dogs, there seems to be some repetition in the themes and the sounds and the structures that he was using, and that would be ultimately fine if what you're replicating is something that people loved.
Yikes.
You don't think those albums are kind of okay?
I was just listening to Damien talking. I was like, that's crazy because to me, they do represent completely different vibes. Those projects.
I think the only one that represents completely different vibe is Honestly Nevermind, which to me is the best album he's made out of that whole run he's been on. But I think the main complaints from people, especially around an album like Certified Lover Boy, was that we've heard all this before. We've tread this ground already. This is stuff that we were hoping to move past by now. And however you want to take that is however you want to take that. That was the general chorus from people when that album came out. I think for Future, it's literally the same thing, but people seem to like the ground that he keeps retreading. If you listen to this album and you listen to like DS2, there's very little daylight between the two of them. He's saying, the lyrics on this album are things that he could have said 10 years ago. You know, he says a line like, I was serving my auntie when she was a dope head just so she can go and cop some Dolce. It's like, these are lines
you
that,
drop
you know,
that any point in the timeline.
these are lines that he could have dropped years ago.
But
And
you got to think, everybody's not a hip hop head in the way that they're looking for something deep. You know,
Sure.
Sometimes people just want music they can vibe to, they can
Absolutely.
like ride to, and I think Future is for that crowd. That's the audience he's appeasing.
I mean, I think Drake has an audience that is ultimately larger because of, you know, he's like more of a pop star than Future. But I think even those people are tired of what he's been doing, as evidenced by the performance of his recent songs. I think people are like, this is.
Do you not think that's more of like the label? I feel like Drake, when he has, I feel like when Drake has a project, it's pushed, it has the proper promotion, and I feel like lately he's just tossing it out. I don't feel like he's putting a proper push behind it. Everybody's like, his songs aren't hitting, but I don't think they were meant to in the way that a proper
Drake.
single from Drake.
Like, I don't think I think Drake.
Drake's marketing is, here's a single.
Yeah.
You know, he's on that level.
The only time he had like a proper, like, long-winded rollout was Certified Lover Boy, which was extremely protracted. And did it work? Maybe.
Not really.
Yeah, it's like, I don't know. Drake is an artist at such a scale that he can say, here's a song, and traditionally we would all be like, holy shit, Drake's dropping a song.
Tootsie Slide,
If there was
what's
like
next?
a hint of a
You
song, we would all run to our computers, just listen to it. I just think, you know, it's time for something new. Also, the guy's been on top for a very long time. It's bound to happen. But I think going back to Future, I think it could be both. It could be, you know, I love the album. I think it's great. I also loved the other two albums he dropped this year. There's only so many hours in the day. There's only so many hours I can devote to Future. I can't like play him around my kids. So it's like, how much Future am I gonna like really digest this year? It's tough. So it's not like too much Future, but it's like you could have held off on this while we're still enjoying this other album that still has legs. You haven't even like pushed their song on this album, and I was like, oh, this was like that other song in this other album. You could have like pushed that instead of making this other thing. You know. But
Meanwhile, you got all the time for Future, don't you?
I know I got some hours in a day.
I got
some
some
time. I got
Kid,
some
no
time.
kid, you see the difference here, you know.
But I think when I look at their 2024 releases, I think Drake, you can kind of smell, not the desperation, but you kind of smell that he's using these releases to restructure how he's being looked at in the marketplace by consumers versus Future. Like, he's going back to Atlanta rappers with 100 gigs, or he's dropping like a little pseudo dancehall Afrobeat vibe of Blue, Green, Red, or he's trying to, you know, get outside of the shadow of Not Like Us and The Beef and all that stuff. So it feels like these drops are in a way kind of like image rehab for him, where Future is kind of like, there's no really any image to rehab because he doesn't really care what his image looks like. He's Future. We love him as he is. We love him because and in spite of who he is. So we kind of fill in the blanks for the other stuff that his image, you know, speaks to. But Drake, you can feel the agenda a little bit too clearly with the 2024 drops, and I feel like that's why in particular this year stuff isn't really hitting for him as much as it is for Future. But I also just think, like Dame said, it's qualitative. Like, it's just bangers versus non-bangers. I don't think it gets less or more complicated than that.
Yeah, I mean, now I understand how my boy feels when he's sitting here.
Oh, now
because,
you gotta be on the over.
I'm like, listen, because I'm not even that massive of a Drake fan, but sitting at this table with you guys, I'm like,
like Drake.
oh,
favorite Drake song
it's
this year?
like, this is like heavy.
I like
What's your
Drake.
favorite Drake song this year?
This year, that's a big, you know.
It's a great
Gosh.
question.
I mean, I did like Push Up.
Push-ups, okay.
I did.
it.
But no, you're right. I'm not telling you
That's the
you're
reaction
wrong.
of like,
But I'm not telling you that
It
you're.
was cute, you know.
I'm
I
not-
like the beat. You know?
I'm,
I like the beat.
I'm not saying that,
That is
y'all
a
are
song.
wrong about the
Yeah.
songs that he putting
That is
out
a
this
song that
year.
exists.
I just feel like y'all, that I can tell Carl be like struggling because like the Drake heat is hard at this table. Y'all don't have it for him. But I think you have to realize that what he did for the culture, what he has done, is no one has ever done it before. So to your point, it's gonna fall off a little bit. But even in the little bit that he's fallen off, he's still Drake.
Oh, yeah. I mean, the mountain is, you know, he's got a long way to go before he's at rock bottom.
Yeah, I just think in terms of in the conversation of what are we more happy with, more Future or more Drake? I would say more Future is the thing that if I had to like move a slider,
but Future is the community, right? That's like the culture likes him. He's gonna be good. But if you're talking about numbers, if you're talking about success, Future couldn't even hold a candle.
Well, let's get into that, because that actually brings up a big point that people are looking forward to with this Future album, this Future debut. I'm looking ahead to the charts next week. Obviously, anytime Future puts out an album, it's a big event. People hoping this album continues that streak of number ones. Obviously, the last two with Metro were both debuted at number one. So could Future go 3 for 3 this year? And that would actually be his 11th number one album. Wow. So no, it is not as many as Drake. Drake's at 14, but clearly, especially at the clip that Future's putting him out, Drake is very much in sight. So, it's like we talk numbers and everything. Obviously, there's other, streaming numbers and awards and that kind of thing. But I think people sleep on Future's success, like to the degree that he really is racking up. He's about to possibly tie people like Barbra Streisand, Bruce Springsteen, Taylor Swift is not very far ahead. Yeah. Drake is not very far ahead.
I don't think anyone ever puts Future in those conversations, both quantitatively and qualitatively. Like if I were to ask people,
you better go down to Atlanta. You go down to Peachtree.
Right? They're gonna say, who's your top 5 rappers of all time? Like Future. Maybe in Atlanta, he gets mentioned. I think up here, he'd be seldom mentioned. But I think even sales-wise, you'd ask like who are the best-selling rappers of the past 10 years. I don't think people would say Future.
Yeah, I don't think his name would come
definitely up there. I think like he's under
that sneaky success.
Under the radar. Sort of. It's fascinating. And it's not even like the clip of the music, because he releases a lot of music, yes, but it all hits. It's really strange.
Yeah, Future's. It is an interesting thing that he's about to be up here with these legends. Sort of same thing on the Hot 100. He's got, well over 100 entries. He's sort of in that top echelon as well. Still sort of funny that there's never been that. Mask Off has been up there in terms of hits. Life is Good was up there. Wait for You was up there. But it's interesting that, like, I guess there's. To your point about the other artists, there's never been this sort of consolidation moment where it's like,
he's the top
Future. It's Future and a gap between everybody else. Yeah. It's just sort of this real consistent success that I think is actually a good formula probably for a lot of people, especially in the streaming era where everyone's just so focused on things like first week and where you're on the Hot 100 and I don't even know if Future has stands in the same way that a lot of other cats do who
yes, we do.
But okay, shout out to as the spokesman for the Future Hive. It's like, they're not focused on all those same things, like what awards did he get? I can't believe he didn't win the VMA. Yeah. I can't believe he's not on today's Hot Hits. Like, it's just he's grown his base like over the last 10 years that come out, support, ride, show up. They show up for the tour, things like that. But it's never suffocating.
Yeah.
He said they're too busy at the courthouse. Yes. That's what a Future Hive is. Okay.
They're too busy not taking care of their kids,
We're talking about this in the production meeting yesterday. It's like this guy has all of the vices and negative traits that seemingly a pop culture crowd would denounce and even cancel. He is a sex-addled drug addict who is a deadbeat father, on paper.
It's like the log line to a movie.
That's the image of Future. In his new video that he dropped yesterday, he's rapping in front of cars wrapped with like Narcan and Suboxone. So these are drugs that people take in order to prevent an overdose or to wean themselves off of opioids. This is the image that he puts forth. But everybody's fine with it, because he's never changed. He's very honest about it. Also, the music like delves into like the horrors and like the cliffs that he has to climb back up to of dealing with the life that he lives, which I think is like something that a lot of artists can learn from. A lot of people, there was a conversation on Twitter, I think 2 days ago, people were likening him to a blues artist. I think it's not far off. I think if you think about like a lot of the blues artists who were themselves hooked on opiates and
a lot of pain and tragedy in those lives,
depressed for most of their careers, Future does align with that, but it's the fact that he's able to continually plow that ground and find new growth to talk about is a thing that's super interesting, and I think that's the thing that like keeps people coming back to him. But it's also the thing I think that keeps him culturally where he is, because his fans are like, of course he's not going to be up for album of the year, because look at what he's rapping about. Look at the music videos he's making. Of course he's not going to get tapped for this thing, because he's making a music video where he's rapping in front of a car wrapped with a Narcan tablet. Like, yeah, his fans are very clear-eyed about like who he is and what like the wider world probably thinks of him, which is great for him.
Well, you're talking about his fans and how supportive they are, but like, okay, so this is third in a year. Yeah. Could he keep this momentum up? Do you think if he dropped a fourth album, that we'd still be like questioning whether it would be number one?
I think so. I think if he were to do it, you know, I think
1,000%.
Like R&B
R&B mixtape. Like he comes out with another like a joint album or something. I think that's a guaranteed number one. I think it might get a bit tricky if we're going for like another solo hip hop tape.
Yeah,
that might stall at number two depending on the week. But I think he's set.
There's no competition right now. There's no big release.
Woo! Don't tell that to Chapel Roan.
Hey, my girl.
She got her vinyl out for the first anniversary. There's, apparently this Drake and Party is supposed to come out at some point in the fall.
Oh, damn.
It's about to be October, so
that's going to be fire.
He goes toe-to-toe with them and drops R&B mixtape like the week before or week of. I want to see that.
This guy wants a Future R&B mixtape.
Drake and Future and an R&B battle, it would be crazy.
You want the 50 Cent Kanye?
Oh yeah,
showdown.
Oh yeah.
And who you put?
There's just so many conversations to have, like about state of R&B, state of rap. Drake and Future like coming back together, but on an R&B tip, not on a rap tip this time. Like that would be really dope.
It would be crazy.
Party Next Door fits it into all of this. Like that's cool. That's a cool coda to this year's beef. I feel that'd be interesting.
I think one underestimated talent of Future's is I think he's great at marketing. I think that goes under the table a lot. I want people really acknowledge how good of a marketer he is of himself. Like this whole Mixtape Pluto thing, the run that he started, he didn't just drop this album out of nowhere. He started with, I'm going back, and he like had all these social clips, and the whole message was like, I'm going back to this time. Even the phrase Mixtape Pluto is something that fans created to like mythologize this part of his career that they all love, and he took that and was like, yeah, I'm gonna tap back into that. Even the Metro albums, utilizing "We Don't Trust You"
as a callback.
It's just incredible. The videos he made to promote that. I think he's like, I don't know, he got it. Like, he's great at this shit. He's great at making the story. He's great at furthering the story, furthering the narrative. Like, we don't particularly... Everything we know about Future personally, we've learned through, like, The Shade Room, which is hilarious because we don't really learn much from his music about him. But he's able to continue this narrative that we all continually buy into album after album, which I think is really impressive.
Well, the funny part is you're talking about, you made me think about our second topic because you're talking about how good he is at marketing. And you would think there's somebody that would have the career at this point to be good at PR, to be good at media, to not make such a moment out of an interview. And that is Miss Jackson, If You Nasty.
Somehow, if you missed this, because it's kind of been... It's kind of like the Super Bowl story that it started with one thing and then it has spun into this weird web of a snowball. Really... So, where I guess hopefully the press wanted to, the PR team would have wanted to close the lid was there was an interview that came out in the Guardian UK publication over the weekend. Janice doing some tour dates there, doing some press, and one of the things that the writer brings up, of course, speaking to Janice's legacy with Rhythm Nation and social empowerment is obviously. We're at the possibility of having our first black female president in the United States, Kamala Harris, if she obviously wins on Election Day. So they asked Janet about that, feeling like that probably was a pretty straightforward A to B question.
Yeah.
And Janet came back with that C-L-M-N-O-P answer. To the point, even the writer said she was, stunned. I love how they like when you insert yourself in that narrative, it's something. Yeah. But to quote what Janet said, I don't want to put anything out of context. Janet says, well, they supposedly said she's not black. That's what I heard, that she's Indian. And the writer writes that she's looked at her expectantly, assuming possibly that the writer herself was Indian. The writer says, well, she's both. Janet answers, quote, her father's white. That's what I was told. I'm going to have him watch the news in a few days. She coughs. I was told that they discovered her father was white.
Who told her this?
Yeah,
I'd love to know.
I want to know the family member that was like, yeah, girl, they said his daddy white. Her daddy white.
This opens up so many. Obviously, it starts with Janet, and now, of course, everyone's going down their Twitter sleuth hole, suggesting her brother Randy, who is her manager. Possibly,
Randy's her manager?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. They dug up old posts on social media that suggest that he was at least, open to supporting Donald Trump, some MAGA, supportive posts that people found, and the internet will uncover anything. So people are suggesting that's a possible way, but
to me,
then not Janet.
Well, yeah, but then Janet. The story gets a little crazier because then there's a statement that comes out the next day by somebody sort of trying to do some damage control, retracting on behalf of Janet Jackson. It's not from Janet herself. Then it comes out that Variety reports that the apology is actually not by someone in the camp.
Well, Janet, they fired the person because that was the story.
Yeah, the person was working on her current documentary.
Yeah.
And had worked with her before. They had let him go, and I guess in a last-ditch attempt to save whatever she fucked up with that statement, he put out an unauthorized statement, and then Variety was like, we got that statement also, but we didn't publish it because apparently he's not actually repping Janet, and then that's when that article came out.
And then Janet was like, yeah, I don't know him.
Yeah. She was like, I stand by.
I stand by my misinformation. No, I think, guys, what we have to realize here.
Indian.
Yeah, where do we... Yeah,
what we have to realize where we go is that no matter how much money you have, no matter how famous you are, she's still an auntie. And you got to look at it. That's the way I look at it. It's like, that's your black auntie that be at the cookout. That's like, yeah, I saw on Facebook. It's like we talk about misinformation, and that's kind of how it works. You see stuff on social media, you hear a post, somebody told you this, somebody told you that, and you just run with it if you don't have, checks and balances telling you what's real and what's not. And everybody gossips, and she just an auntie that was told some information, and she like, this is what I heard.
Just wild.
Just because she's Janet Jackson, we're expecting her to be some super knowledgeable person.
No, I'm expecting her to be a knowledgeable person because she's a voting citizen who's grown. Like, I think
okay,
with
all the
and I have that and I have that expectation for everybody. I think with all the love and respect in the world, she sounded a plumb fool. Like, if you heard something or if you could not verify what you said at your age with your status, what you know about this industry and interviewing and all of this stuff, no comment. Just don't speak about it.
No, she shouldn't have spoke.
And on top of that, like, if we even want to go a bit further, half this Jackson family is biracial. Why can't y'all understand the concept of a biracial person?
Yeah. Like, it's
a lot.
It's insane to me that a family, like, that was the crazier part to me. Like, I agree with that. There's like a subset of people that just get their information from God knows where, and they believe it to be true. It reminds me of this XXL interview that Clover Hope did back in the day with DMX, and she was like, "Are you voting?" And he was like, "No, I'm not really following the election." And she was like, "Oh, like, what do you think about, are you going to vote for Barack or Hillary?" And he's like, "What the fuck is a Barack?" And she was like, "Barack Obama." He was
celebrities. They're just like us.
And he was like, "I have no idea who Barack is." But the Jackson family is like, yo, this is the most like Benetton ad family I've ever seen. Like there's all different colors.
Like
of
so much
happening.
As colors.
So much
happening. Not the Fenty shades top to bottom.
That's what the Jackson family is, and they've had to deal with that back in the day back in a time in America when it wasn't so forgiving to be with different races and to intermingle with different types of people. They've had to go through that. She's had to go through her brother, like all the racial strife that he had to go through. So it's just like wild to me that she, even if she did hear that, she wasn't like, let me not say anything.
Well, that's the PR part. That's the media part of like, just don't speak on it. But like you were saying, like, oh, you expect her to be knowledgeable. And in this election process, I've completely abandoned that. I don't expect anybody to be knowledgeable.
I've given up on
this man said, hey, they're eating the dogs and the cats in Springfield, Ohio, and look how far that's went. That has been debunked. That has been unproven. And they still are saying it. It still gets thousands of likes when people post about it. People are going to believe what they want to believe. Misinformation is going to go, and if people believe it, they're going to run with it. You can't expect, at least I don't anymore, for people to actually care about the truth.
I think on this particular topic, it's like, as a public, we've been familiar with Kamala since, 8 years now? 6
I mean,
years
like
now?
worst case, we would say 2020 when she was obviously
you can look up these
California.
pictures. Like, there are no pictures with a white father with Kamala. There's pictures with her black father, her Jamaican father. Like, this is like, misinformation is a real plague that we're dealing with, absolutely. But when we're looking at just like something as simple as Kamala Harris's racial makeup, like, this is not hard to disprove.
And I love that she doesn't speak on it. I think it's great. Anytime she's been asked about it or it's come up in an interview, she kind of just avoids it because it's weird to have to prove. Yeah, it's weird to have to prove your race when it's so public knowledge, you know? Even the fact that she went to an HBCU, you know? She's in the Divine Nine black sorority. Like, she is a black woman. It's very clear and obvious, and I don't think it's something to argue. And if you're choosing to believe that misinformation, there's really nothing you can do about it. I don't believe there's anything you can do to convince somebody that believes something that it's not true.
But that's interesting about it, because the only thing I when I was reading this again, you know, Janet, it's weird. She's not saying it so definitively, like oh no, like I know she's. It's the whole part about like I heard. And I thought, and I'm just.
But then she doubled down.
I'm just curious about is there no the natural curiosity like to go find out? Like you just.
That's what you think Janet Jackson's Googling?
Janet Jackson, bro. She hasn't been. I would be surprised if she even uses a computer.
Yeah, exactly. I'm with him.
I mean, I guess, you know, if she's had people in this, sort of telling, hey, we're going to, sort of guiding her life in the sense of this is your schedule for the day, this is what's going on, then I guess you're right. Maybe that's the framework of
I'm more shocked
super celebrity life.
A super celebrity who lives in the state that Kamala is elected in.
Wow.
Like that's the thing that shocks me is like I know you've been in rooms with this woman. You're one of the most famous people in that state. Like I guarantee you have been in a room with her.
You know what Janet Jackson
might for a fundraiser or like someone has, brought you there even against your will, or you had to like show up, make an appearance, or
you've been in the room.
You know what Janet Jackson might say? And to Janet Jackson's defense, she gonna say, so Kamala Harris was Attorney General of California, 2 terms. Who's your Attorney General right now?
Don't know, don't care. That's not the question.
Hello. Meanwhile, I'm like,
you gonna get on Janet for not know? I can see Janet saying, and who was yours? Ooh. If you like,
we talking about the presidential candidate. Not my Attorney General.
Meanwhile, I'm just wanting Kamala's white father to please reach out to Unfiltered. We would love to speak to Kamala's white father.
We got space.
Let us know. We're trying to get to the bottom of this. Please.
I found him.
Oh, that's probably, I'll give it 2 days.
I mean, I guess we can rest assured that in the 2024 election, Janet Jackson's thoughts won't have much sway, I don't think, with many voters. So that's like a good thing. But on a personal note, I just kind of... Where's the music, Janet? I really love 2015's Unbreakable.
Yeah.
It's a really solid fucking album.
The Black Diamond album.
Unbreakable was really good.
Really good.
People slept on it hard.
Really good.
The tour was good. The album was good.
It was the number 1 album, the real one saw it.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. But like, it's been coming up on a decade since Unbreakable. Like
Black Diamond. Has it been a decade?
2015. It'll be 2025 next year. Like, I want to know what else you're cooking up. That's not about Kamala and her racial makeup.
Why did you just make me feel like old as shit? Damn,
it's been it'll be 9 probably next month, and after 9 comes 10.
Yeah.
All right. Well, you know who
everybody do your research, by the way. But before we get to the Janet Jackson thing, we got to do a little PSA about folks. Please do your research on the election. It is coming up in 5-6 weeks. So. Make sure you have trusted sources.
Just read one book.
One book.
And not the freaking Laws of Power shit either.
Just read a book.
And stay off Facebook.
Yeah.
All right, moving from Janet Jackson, another topic that had the internet, just offering a range of opinions. This is one of those topics where it's like everybody wants to be a PR, an A&R, or a marketer.
Everybody thinks they are.
It just jumped off. So Chlöe Bailey went on Instagram Live this week. A lot of folks were asking in particular about some appearances and, when you're going to be performing your new music. She dropped an album back in August. Trouble in Paradise was the name of it, kind of surprise album. So folks are, when are we going to see something, some tours, some information? One of the things that Chlöe sort of hinted at is that, appearances cost money. So suggesting that the money could be tied up for that, not approved. And then that sort of led to this whole cascade about fans assessing the state of her career and, what has happened, what's worked, what hasn't worked, what she needs to double down on, maybe what she needs to let go of. Ooh. So sort of trying to place blame all over the place. Parkwood was a trending topic. So a lot of people had thoughts on Parkwood and Columbia and how that relationship has gone on. So I guess to open it up. So what do we think about where Chlöe's career is, and are there missteps, and what can she do to get out of them?
I'm not an A&R.
It's the chuckling for me. I just put it out there, and you grab it and you shape it. You take the Play-Doh and shape it and however you want to.
It's a minefield.
It is, but I do think I want to start by saying she is incredibly talented.
Yes.
And one thing that bothered me was when Tate McRae went viral recently, everybody kept being like, we've needed this. We've needed a pop star. We needed somebody that can sing and dance and this and that. And it's like, she's there. Chlöe Bailey's there. She has been consistently showing you that she can sing, she can dance, she can perform. She's all around amazing. Just nobody cares. And it's why does nobody care is what we're trying to figure out. Why don't the songs hit? What is it about her that's missing the mark? I used to think it was that her music was too R&B. I actually thought it wasn't mainstream enough. I thought it was a subset. But then she did Boy Bye, which was a really pop song. Yeah. She has dabbled and tried to do different things, but it never hits. So is she too similar to Beyonce? Is it too much of a Beyonce impression, if you will? I've seen that online a lot. But what is it that's not hitting?
Well, I think the main critique people have said, and just sort of surfing through tweets and all that kind of thing is, I guess someone described it best as this hypersexual pivot that they felt like, I don't want to say this angelic kind of vibe, but they were, too obviously, the voices are heavenly. So kind of this natural R&B kind of sound. You have a track like Do It. You have some sort of energy there. Like it's not too overwhelming. And then you jump to the solo stuff and everyone feels like it went from 0 to 100.
I don't agree.
And it's almost like a whiplash kind
of
effect.
But if you actually follow Chlöe Halle, if you look back, she was always this. In their social media, in their personalities, she was always more sexual, a little bit more ratchet, if you will. She always was serving that when her sister would be giving more demure, more classy. They were always this kind of like yin yang. If you followed them. Maybe music.
I think tracking the conversations in 2020 around Ungodly Hour before they split for solo careers was really interesting because I remember people being like, oh, Halle is holding Chlöe back from dancing more sexually on stage and really embracing that side of herself on stage and stuff like that. They were egging her to go solo because they were attracted to her. And then she went solo, embraced that sexuality on her own terms, and then it became too much for those same people who were begging her to go solo. I don't think either of them should have gone solo yet. I think Chlöe and Halle should have done a third duo album because Ungodly Hour was truly them cementing themselves for mainstream listeners.
Oh, absolutely.
Love the Kids Are All Right. That's one of my favorite albums, of the past couple of years. That didn't really make a dent in the marketplace for real. Ungodly Hour got them their first Hot 100 entry. I think the album went to number 12. Like they were
at Coachella.
They were at Coachella. They were making some real. No. Okay, the album went to number 12. The song was like 60 something or something like that, right?
Yeah.
But they were really making something for themselves as a duo then. I think the combination of Ungodly Hour dropping during the pandemic and then going into Little Mermaid filming, it was like, where happens here? And Chlöe was like, I'm going to make this album. Yeah. I don't know what the development process looked like for them as soloists versus as the duo, but it took me a minute to figure out what Chlöe was trying to do solo-wise with the music. For me, she is an immensely talented person when it comes to writing, production, singing, dancing, all of the above. She is, a multi-hyphenate. But when I was looking at and listening to these projects, they don't come together in a way that I think is best reflective or representative of what she's capable of. I think she would do well with an editor or an executive producer to kind of streamline the visions that she has. It sometimes feels like too much on a single song, let alone on an entire album. But there's stuff that works and there's stuff that doesn't work. But I think musically I think she got close with like Have Mercy was a really good way to like meet her sound with where the mainstream was at the time. I don't know if she's found that good balance yet again, but there's still good stuff happening coming out of her music. I think in terms of what she was saying with, the budget's not budgeting, it's rough in the industry right now. It's
rough for Black
layoffs,
women. It's
exactly.
like, listen to Black women. I can't say that enough. You got Tinashe. Let's talk about it. We got our girl Normani.
Mm-hmm.
I was gonna say it feels like a lot of parallels with Normani.
Yeah, it's the Normani, it's Chlöe, all of them.
And just to try to find this lane and this sound.
I would say that until I get to the list of things that Chlöe has been able to pull off, despite comparatively pulling in worse numbers than all of the girls that were just listed.
Like, compared to Tinashe, Chlöe has had an immense push. She's had a lot
crazy
of
push.
I don't think she's been like a victim of major label largesse and bureaucracy in the same way like Normani has or Tinashe has. I think she's had all the opportunities that you could hope to get, and I think that's what's so confounding, as you said, is that she's so talented. She has, on paper, if you were to build a superstar,
she has it all.
That's what you would make. You would build Chlöe. And it's just confounding that it can't click. Like, to me, who didn't follow their careers as closely as you guys, the jump from the group to her solo was a bit jarring for me. And, I didn't, as a guy, I was like, sure, like, do what you want to do. This is great. A lot of the conversation around that, though, is like, what has happened to her? Is this what she believes will get her more eyeballs? But my thing is, like, she already had the eyeballs. She's like one of the most famous people, regardless of what she's been able to do. Her sisters in Little Mermaid, like, they've made it to this level of fame that otherwise, like Normani would kill to have her visibility. I think it's just like, to Kyle's point, the music maybe is just not there. I think there could be a lot of success had if she were to sit down with somebody. I think we all threw out Darkchild. We all threw out.
She just need a hit, a solid hit.
I think she needs like a direction.
Yes.
Like, she needs like someone to sit down and like the way that like Darkchild talked about working with Brandy is like, that's the type of work that I think she needs, where they sit down and they're like, what's going on? What are you really trying to say? Let's find some sounds that match that. Let's find like a theme that matches that. Let's work through this together. Here's what I know. Here's what I've done. I can pair this with you and we can make something great. I think there's a bunch of people she can work with on that. I don't think it's like, like Murder Beat's not going to do it for her. I think it's like, not, and Mike Will won't do it. I think she needs somebody, like.
She needs a camper, someone to really build a world with. Like, she wrote and recorded this album, was heavily inspired by St. Lucia on, Trouble in Paradise. I am St. Lucian American. I did not really get much of my island's culture in that album, sound-wise, aesthetically, anything besides like the one visualizer that was shot at Carnival. It's like.
But you also have to realize she's coming from a lot of success and Parkwood and Beyonce, so I feel like she probably has a lot more control than she should. Yeah. And I don't even mean that in a negative way. She's clearly very talented, and she can produce, she can write, she can do it all. But like most artists that are that young, that are that new, would have a label and a team telling them what to do. Mm-hmm. And I feel like she probably just has free reign to be like, no, I'm talented, I'm smart, I'm gonna do it myself.
Yeah.
I think there is some level of label. Cause I remember her saying that there was an album before In Pieces that was scrapped, and then In Pieces came out because there were 4 singles that she put out between Have Mercy and Surprise, none of which actually made the debut album. So like there was an album, I guess label people were like, this isn't gonna work, and then In Pieces was made. So I think there is some level of conversation at least being had along those lines, but she probably does have a little bit too much
Freedom.
Too much
but it's
freedom.
like I didn't even want to say too much freedom.
It's possible.
I mean,
But it's like,
It's possible.
but it's like, you know, sometimes you need to hone it in. You just need to really just zero in on a very specific lane and brand for yourself. And I'm not like, when I think of the name Chlöe Bailey, a lot of different things come to mind, but they're not really a uniform brand of what Chlöe Bailey is or represents.
Yeah.
That's the problem in this marketplace that is, you know, tied to proper branding. Like half the reason people were so into the whole Sabrina Carpenter arc this year was because of how well she branded herself across those singles, aesthetically, style-wise, all of that stuff.
It all makes sense.
There's a disconnect happening there in that level with Chlöe that I think is very apparent. And for better or for worse, because she's operating in the shadow of Parkwood and Beyonce, people have another level of expectation for what she's putting out. Which is why I also think it's just like, I think everyone had a level of expectations for Chloe's solo career immediately that they probably wouldn't have given to anybody else because of the Parkwood and Beyonce attachment. And it's like, well, maybe we have to readjust what we were expecting.
Yeah.
Because
it's tough when
you look at the duo's success and it was like, okay, well, she was never going to come out of the gate with a #1 debut like smash, but that seemed to be what's happening in people's heads. So when you do see the return, it's like, oh, you're really a mega flop. And it's like, well,
and I hate that conversation.
Yeah.
Like, it's a little bit more nuanced than that. But
and I mean, she is the best performer, I feel like, of the generation right now. When you look at like her BET Awards performance, when you look at her VMAs performance, she leaves it all out on the stage. She has the voice, the dancing, that fire. And I hate that a lot of artists, the Gen Z artists, they don't have that fire anymore. They're just like us. That's the thing. Where she's not like us. She is bigger on stage as a persona. And maybe that's a part of the disconnect, is that people don't actually like that anymore.
Yeah,
Gen Z isn't looking for these big performances. They like a little bit more of that's my homegirl.
They like to know that they can also do it.
There you go.
But you see Chloe on stage.
You think we're done with the superstar model?
I think we've been done for a long fucking time.
Name one.
A lot of the people who've gotten hits in the past 5 years really shouldn't have, but you know, they do because they can. Because, you know, they're not virtuosic talents. They're not incredible writers, not incredible performers, but they can craft a good hook and they can sell it well enough that we can relate to it. So we buy. But it's like
on Instagram.
These kind of like
I think celebrity
stars that are just like, you get on stage and you leave it all on the floor. Like, I saw so many people praising her Usher tribute at the BET Awards. And they were like, oh, I wish, you know, she made more music like this. She sounds so amazing. Like, they can recognize the talent.
I wish she made Usher songs.
It's like, yeah,
I wish too.
Like, I wish we all made Usher songs.
It's crazy, though, like, talking about Janet, because it's like, Janet was another one who was in the shadow of a major success, was a child and had to grow up in the public, and then struggled to find herself as an artist as she was growing up. And the thing that helped her was working with Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis. You know, they were like, let's...
Because them 2 albums before Control went all that, but they locked in and figured out a lane.
And then boom.
That could very well be what happened with, you know, solo album #3 with Chloe, if she finds someone that she has a really good synergy with. But I think that's what's missing.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
Well, it sounds like Chlöe Bailey needs to call Kyle Dennis because he got ideas and
I'm
plans.
rooting for the girl. I love her. I really do. I love her and her sister.
I'm rooting for her too.
I think that comes back to it. Is like everyone agrees that the talent and the potential is all right there. We just gotta sort of stack the deck, you know, a little more straightforward.
Care about performers. We had Beyonce, we had Britney, we had J-Lo. Like, these people were like stars. They were like, oh my God, Jennifer Lopez, oh my God, Beyonce. And now people don't like that. It's like all about like relatability.
That's crazy. Gen Z's gonna eat you up saying we're not impressed by talent. Is that what he's saying?
That's what I'm saying.
That's I think that's like that's a whole other topic that we can dive into. But
100% is.
I don't think he's wrong. I think
no, he's absolutely right.
I love the song. I never met him, but I love the song. But Tommy Richmond, incredible songs he dropped. The clip of him performing them
at the rooftop situation was
terrible. And I don't know.
Tommy gonna say I didn't have my, I could control that. I could control the elements. I didn't have the background.
I don't know the circumstances were. I don't know. I don't know what happened. But the clip that came out was not good. And this was the first time I'd seen this guy perform the song live. And I could not believe it.
It's like Pink Panthers too.
Didn't sound anything.
That's another
like
one.
And
they're not performing.
Have you been able to listen to $1 Million Baby since then?
I love the song.
Okay,
but I think that's a topic for another day. But I don't
really
disagree.
rich topic.
I will be back for that topic.
I
will fly back out for that one.
Too talented, and they don't appreciate her. Okay, well,
there we go.
Okay, I look forward to the three old heads and Kyle breaking down Gen Z. I just look.
Jeez, I was trying to be with Kyle. Damn.
Yeah, we'll break down Gen Z's performance preferences another day, but yeah, I guess we'll see. Hopefully, what Chlöe comes up with next, and maybe that gets her a little more in that direction Kyle was talking about. Before we go, as always, of course, we got to get through the lightning round. So we're gonna zip through that. Everyone's sort of what you've been spinning, what you've been listening to, what you've been enjoying. Usually we start over here. I think we'll start over here this week.
We'll keep Kyle. In the spirit of Miss Chlöe Bailey, I had to pick her and Joey Badass's new duet, Tell Me. I really love the track. I love her vocal delivery. It's really neo soul, kind of Jill Scott, Erykah Badu vibes. It's Chloe singing about sex without it actually sounding corny. Like I can believe both of them. I believe their chemistry. It's a nice vibe, a nice little transition into cuffing season. Like this is a nice pocket for both of them, for both Joey and for Chloe. So loved it.
One thing. Speaking of Chloe's, like in that bag, there was a cover that she just did on like a social media, whatever, made for me.
Cover.
Back sort of when that was, sort of all around TikTok and everything, and everyone was like, yo, this is
what we want to hear.
Because if you haven't heard that, I don't know if it's on her X or Instagram or wherever, go find it, because that's like obviously it's sex driven song in a way, like a little slower, and she just melts right into that. It's crazy.
Thank you.
I'm gonna go with Glorilla.
Hey,
Hold on.
Okay.
It's a good song. Not that she doesn't have a hit, because she's clearly had great Hot 100 success, but I keep wanting Glorilla to have like that song, like that smash that's like everywhere, that's like, her signature song. And I feel like she's starting to get there. And Hold On, to me, it's got the TikTok ability, like the like repetitiveness, that's something that's really easy to latch onto. And I'm country, so I love a little play on words. Hold On as the title. I'm like, chef's kiss.
Let's go. I kind of thought TGIF might be, obviously it was a huge hit, but I thought just where it started and how viral it went with Rihanna and everything, I thought it might be that one.
I thought that was going to be
kind of goes all the way, and it became a big radio hit. It just sort of, I guess, stalled out a little earlier than I thought. I don't know.
Didn't sync up well. Like people were really into the snippet, and then by the time the song dropped, like the hype had fallen a tiny bit on the ground level. But
and she also had a lot of, Wannabe is of course going on. Yeah, Glow is still, got legs. So
there's
a lot of singles.
There's a
lot of stuff in the marketplace at once. So
a lot of Glorilla.
But they never go all the way, and it's like something's got to go there for her.
Yeah,
crazy. I remember when Tomorrow 2 dropped, and I was going to a dinner, and I was in an Uber. I wound my window down, and you just heard it everywhere. Like you just heard people playing it. And I was like, "Oh, this is it. It's out of here." And
it was a top 10 hit, so it's not like it wasn't, But like hits, clearly, I'm waiting for that one that just solidifies her as like, this, that kind of breakout. So obviously the album Glorious coming out in a couple weeks.
Is
it? I would say it's October.
Really?
Get
Is it November?
Kyle's
It's definitely
Kyle's on it.
I want to say it's like October 11th. Yeah.
Oh, there you go.
Wow, that's sooner than I thought.
That's right.
So maybe around that time we'll get the proper push that she needs.
You know what? Next time I just got to believe in myself because I knew it. I knew it.
There's a lot of writing on this album, I think.
But yeah. But Gloria Hallelujah Woods. Let's see what she gonna bring with it.
What you got?
I can't wait for a gospel.
Well, I'm gonna let. I'll go next. Okay, I went with Doechii and the song Nissan Altima, which her album dropped a couple weeks ago. It's the current single from Alligator Bites Never Heal, and I think for a lot of people, obviously, like there's been a lot of buzz about Doechii for a while. She obviously had the Kodak song that blew up, and I think if that was your introduction to Doechii, you may think kind of like Lotto, like we knew Lotto from Bitch from the South and a couple things, but Big Energy was the one that blew up, and I think people probably thought Lotto was a little more poppy than
She actually was.
Well, that song definitely was poppy, but then this album comes out and it's like, nah, she really keeping it like Southern and classic, and I think in that same vein for Doechii, if you think what it is like Block Boy is like, oh, that's kind of the Doechii sound, check out this new album. She is. Y'all love my favorite sort of jackhammer, like on this track. Just, spitting in one of those ways that it's like the breath control, but the clarity and like the articulation on a technical level is fantastic. This song is her new single. It's starting to come up on radio a little bit, so kind of in that same vein of where we saw Lotto make that jump from people thinking maybe pop is always going to be her lane to something that's just more real and raw and more technically on a hip hop like rap level. I think this could do the same thing for Doechii in particular. So I'm excited to see where this one goes in the next couple weeks.
Nice.
Fire.
And let's wrap it up with D. Scott.
Yeah, I'm going to be the old head, and my pick is a song "Sunshine" by Bilal. He has an album coming out this Friday called "Adjust Brightness." This song is, I think it's the first single off of it. The album's only 11 tracks. He recorded it throughout over the past 4 years. So starting during COVID and going into now, he learned to paint, he says, and he spent some time in Morocco. This song though is just great. It's fast and energetic. It reminds me of Chicago house, but if you were to put that through a jazz filter. And his voice is incredible. He's one of the best vocalists, of the past 30 years, in my opinion. So yeah, I'm excited for the album to come out.
Adjust Brightness. I like that.
Yeah.
At first when I heard that, I was like, what? I was like, oh, that's kind of smooth. Yeah. Okay,
it's good. Check it out. Bilal is he's so talented, and I don't think he's reach the heights that we all thought he was going to reach when Soul Sister came out back in the day. But man, the guy can sing his ass off, and
I think he still has that loyal follow. I know, when he sort of tours, I think anywhere, people who, whether it's I know my aunt lives in Pacific Northwest. When he comes to town, there there's a real community that appreciates that, and I think he always can sort of latch on to that.
And he was introduced to a new generation when he was on To Pimp a Butterfly.
Yeah,
I kind of rediscovered him. Then, but yeah, this Friday, Adjust Brightness.
Just Brightness. All right. Okay, well, we wrap things up. Of course, want to give a special shout out to Teddy for sitting in this week.
Thank you guys for having me.
We appreciate everything. Always great conversation. A lot of topics to jump through today. We didn't really have a light one, but we're here for the heavy conversations all the time too. So appreciate everybody, and as always, thanks to y'all for watching. New episode of Billboard Unfiltered. As always, next week. See y'all then.